007 says, not riding waves. That's why we haven't heard from Jigga, Mike. I was thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it. I think this climate exposes who aren't 100% organic and force rap's creativity. To piggyback off of that, and then I'm going to get into the question I wanted to ask you. I
Hold
listened
on.
to.
I
Uh-huh.
don't know if that's fair because what he's best at is talking about hustling, and he doesn't hustle anymore. That's not fair to
I think
him.
I'm talking
Like,
about. I think he's talking about riding waves sonically. And I think that when I listen to the Blueprint 3 now, and I listen to it and kind of like take the songs out of it and listen to him rap, he doesn't sound like Jay-Z. He sounds like he's trying to find a style on that album.
yeah,
He's
like when
all over the place with his style on that album. Lyrically, he's still Jay-Z lyrically. But as
I ask
far as like
about,
his approach and his flow, it sounds like he's trying to attach to whatever was going on at that time and kind of out of touch with it.
let me ask you something.
Uh-huh.
Is he not like doing that very much on the Black album, or do you like feel like the Black album is more cohesive and more intentional with how he's approaching it, like flow and delivery wise?
I think
Because
flow
there's
and
all
delivery
types of
wise,
flow, deliveries and styles on the Black album. That's part of what makes it so beautiful
I
because it's
think
woven
flow and
together.
delivery wise, he
Huh?
sounds a lot like he did on the Blueprint 2 on the Black album. And he's kind of running with that young Chris is style on the Black album, where people kind of already identify that with him anyway. But
There's a lot of
on,
deliveries on there, Mike.
what's that?
There's a lot of deliveries on the Black album. There's a lot of flows on the Black album, Mike. He's got a lot of flows
Are
on the
you
Black
counting
album.
Lucifer? Because that's clearly Kanye's,
I knew
right?
you were gonna go there. I
But
am counting. Okay, so how about this? Is 99 Problems like Chris Orye?
um,
What about Threat?
hold on. Let me think about 99 Problems real quick. How does that start again?
I
Uh,
got the Rat Patrol and
the
the
Rat
Gat
Patrol.
Patrol. Foes that want to say that his casket's closed. Rap
Yeah,
Crooked days, money
yeah.
cash. I'm from the hood, stupid. What type of
That's
facts are
very
those?
young Chris esque. Yes.
When you grew up with holes in your
Hat for
zapper toes, you
toes,
celebrate the
don't
minute you
give a
was
having
having
no.
dough. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, you can kiss my whole asshole if you don't like my lyrics. I don't know if Chris flips it like that, Mike. He stretches it out. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I ain't never
Again,
heard Chris flip it that fast.
Jay Z is a genius. It's never going to be
Super
exact.
radio, if I
You're
don't
going
play
to
that.
get pieces
They don't
of
play my
things.
hits. I don't give a shit. So,
That's what
you
I'm
talking
saying.
about that?
Like, Jay
That's
is
what I'm
Jay is
talking
a
about.
genius. Yeah. He'll
What
take
about Threat?
pieces.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for Jay for once. What about Threat? Like
Yeah.
cast your oil, I cast destroy you. Change your face, but the bullets change all that for you. Y'all
That's more of
niggas
a
is soft.
beans. The way you just said it, that sounds a little bit more like beans. It does.
I'm
Listen,
just trying to take up for
he's
him
great.
now.
Listen, he's great at being able to
Threat was
take
one of the best
anything.
mic performances that year, Mike. Threat's probably the best mic performance on that album.
I think so too. As far as like
Valet,
flow and delivery and all of that, I think lyrically,
you talking about Valet, a couple strays from the 38 special, nigga. God bless you. Like,
yeah,
no, he's lyrically
that's
like,
Jay being Jay right there.
yeah, he's lyrically there too.
Now, what I wanted to ask you though, you talk about egos and contracts and things like that. Who does a double disc in, let's just say in the '90s era? Because obviously, when you talk about double disc, they count them twice because you have to manufacture two individual discs. The cost
Correct.
is there, right? So
Correct.
the person on the manufacturing end has to pay to, burn two discs, package two
Right.
discs, so you're gonna count it twice, right? So with all that being said, who does the double disc in that era benefit? The label or the artist?
I think the artists are using it to get their freedom to get away from the label because they understand it benefits the label more than them. Like benefits are to be had on both sides, but it's just about how the benefits are dispersed. And so the benefits usually tend to be like 80-20.
I
And
just
so
don't
the
believe.
MC is trying to get himself from up under that 80-20 situation by releasing the material necessary to fulfill the contractual obligation to get their freedom to thereby acquire more money when they release their project.
Well, see,
That's what they,
I think that's an optimistic viewpoint from your standpoint because I just don't believe that the house is out here to lose. The labels aren't trying to do anything to benefit the artist over them.
No, I didn't say they were trying to do it. I'm saying the artist's reason for doing it.
But I'm just saying they wouldn't allow the artist to do that if it was in an adverse, result to the actual label.
So here's where the artist's stature, and here's where you leverage it. Well, are you of enough stature that you doing this double album makes sense and makes the label excited? Well, let's look at some of the people that have chosen to do that. Tupac, the Notorious B.I.G., Wu-Tang Clan, Nas, Jay-Z. Well, yeah, when they tell you that they want to make a double album, guess what the label's about to say? That's the leverage and the power of the artist, too.
Well, let me give you this. And it's funny since you mentioned them in those
Or
terms.
Master P and you're pimping the game, and Priority's looking at you like, well, make as much music as you want because you already kind of pimped us in this deal. So we need you to make as much music as possible so we make our money too anway. Which way
Well,
you want to play this game?
I don't think Priority lost anything in those dealings. I think the only
I didn't say they lose anything. I'm saying they got gift in the sense that it's like, well, no artist ever got what he got.
But no artist ever put up what he put up either. That's the thing. You want an 80-20 deal? You got to put up the bread to be able to do that, and you handle your own marketing. And
Pretty
a
sure
lot
it
of
was 85-15.
artists, huh?
Pretty certain it was 85-15.
No, it's
85-15?
80-20. It's 80-20.
It was 85-15.
I've never heard that.
I'm
But
pretty
we
certain
can
it
go
was
research
85
it.
on the dollar. Yeah, we got to look it up. I thought
Yeah,
it was
we'll
like
look it
85
up.
on the dollar.
But regardless, even if it was that, he's going to have to put up those marketing costs out of his pocket. And if you fly, you fly. If not, whatever. Because at that point, all Priority's doing is handling the manufacturing and mass production and stuff like that because they got to cover those things. But
That's
what
all
I was going to
forever.
say, when you
But
talk
hold
about...
on.
Go ahead.
That's where, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's where P is really so groundbreaking is that he showed people it's like, man, you don't need them for nothing but they name. You can do the rest of this yourself.
Well, he didn't need anything from them
That's
but their
what
ability to mass produce
I
and
mean. You don't need nothing but their name and their brand to push it out.
their ability to get his videos that he probably was paying for on television. Okay, so what I was gonna say is when you talk about those double discs and them being a moment, it's interesting. It's interesting that All Eyes on Me was coming off of the momentum of Tupac coming out of jail. Boom. Okay, you've been locked down. Everybody's looking for you. It's your first Death Row album. Let's hit people with something special. Double pack. Boom. And honestly, let's be real. Biggie's Life After Death. That was kind of an answer to that album per se, right?
That's how that went, Mike.
Do you truly believe that Biggie would have had a double album if Tupac didn't put out a double album, All Eyes on Me? Because I
think
don't.
Tupac signed to Death Row because Suge got him out of prison.
Uh-huh.
And I think by the time that he was in prison, he had already released 3 albums on a major record label, so he understood how the major label game worked. This is somebody, he's a thinker, he's highly intelligent. You can hear it in the bar work. He's actually more of a thinker and a poet than he even is an MC at times. That's why people say he's not lyrically inclined. It's actually more of he does more of what Mos Def just did on the Black Star album, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He does more of that. It's more about the whole scene. He understood what game he was playing coming out of prison. And he understood that the quickest way to get out of that game and to get his freedom was to do a double album. And when was it going to be more appropriate leverage-wise for him to do it? How does California Love on side start off? Out of jail, fresh out of jail, California dreaming. As soon as I step on the scene, I'm hearing Hoochie screaming. Oh, it's major when he's getting out. He's leveraging his major level shit right now. Because there's never going to be another time probably where he's going to be able to say, I want to make a double album. And the label is going to back it properly too. It's Tupac coming out of prison after a rape charge after making his seminal piece of work.
Yeah. So the timing was beneficial for everybody.
As an artist, the leverage was there. You make your move as an artist when the leverage was there. He was leveraging his position because it was there as an artist. It was a different game back then.
But again, even him leveraging that as an artist, Interscope / Death Row saw that made sense. Honestly, Death Row, if we keep it all the way a buck, they needed a win in '96, right?
They needed anything in
They needed a
'96.
win in '96. They
Yeah,
needed
come
that
on.
because the Chronics '92, Doggy Styles '93, they needed a win in '96.
Yeah,
And
Dog Food's
so, and
95.
yeah, I mean, Dog Food's dope, but as far as like based on what their level is, it's not Doggy Style or the Chronic. Anybody would say that, and commercially, definitely not. So they needed a big time blockbuster win, and who else to do it than Pac with a double disc? You're right. He leveraged it. They leveraged it. Everybody won. So boom, that happens there. I think Big and Puff, Bad Boy, Arista, whatever, they leverage the fact that, okay, this East Coast, West Coast stuff, whether they want to acknowledge that or not, they use those things, right?
Hold on. Look, hold
And
on.
so, yeah, they leverage that to say, okay, double this there. Well, we got a double this here. Boom. That makes sense.
No, so
Wu Tang, to Wu Tang Forever, to that point, they're coming off of 36 Chambers. These guys have done all these dope solo albums. It's 9 members in this group. We've seen double albums work. It only makes sense to follow
no,
up this first classic effort with a double disc.
that's not how that works. Though. Now
Okay,
I think
what do you think?
now I think you're being a little narrow-minded because here in 1997, you have to offer Raekwon, Ghostface, and Method Man and Old Dirty Bastard more money some sort of way to show up.
I think that's fair.
That's where the double disc comes into play for Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang's a double disc because, quite frankly, there's about half of the clan that it's gotten very, very rich without the other half of the clan. Like, Ray is big, Ghost is big, Meth is big, Riz is big, Dirty's big. That's half the clan. Those guys aren't coming in at the same rate before. Like, they may love these dudes. Those are your brothers. That's not the same when you can go out here and get this check. Like, when Ray looking at it like, man, I can get a Wu-Tang check or I can go get a solo check and a Ray and Ghost check because my solo shit popping and the Ray and Ghost thing is popping.
So you're
Now,
saying it was more of the label's concept to do a double than the artist in that one?
no, I'm telling you that the artist is saying, let's do this, like to get more money out of it. So it makes sense for them to spend the time to stop what they're doing solo or duo-wise, as in Method Man and Redman, as in Raekwon and Ghostface, to do this.
Right, so they need a bigger budget to record more songs.
Everything got to be bigger. It's
Okay.
different now. It's different now. It's 1997. Meth is real, real big. Meth
Yeah.
real big. It's 97.
And he hadn't released a follow up to Zakal yet. So
He's big off. I'll be there for you. How high?
yeah.
All the Wu-Tang stuff. Like Meth is actually the legend walking around in 97.
Oh, definitely. Not to mention he's on All Eyes on Me and Ready to Die.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
He's everywhere. He's a legend in 97.
Okay, so I can see that. That makes sense. What are your thoughts on Bone doing a double disc for Art of War? Why do you think that happened?
Do you remember the interview in The Source where they were talking about how they've had label problems from the start?
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about. It all centered around getting away from the label and the money. When people see how the money goes, Sax brought up a point earlier. It's kind of drifted away in the track. Big had a 6-album deal with Bad Boy. His next was supposed to be a triple disc to get out of this deal. He was talking about that in the last Source interview. That's why Life After Death was a double. Big realized it too. Like these dudes were getting hip to the game and talking and realizing. You have to understand when Pac and Big and Nas and Wu and Bone and these guys are signing these deals. Hip hop is not the money making machine that these guys help turn it into.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of like the NBA, man. When you look at that whole contract issue with Scottie Pippen, he signed his first contract before things really started blowing up out of the water, and in the middle of his contract, the NBA started making crazy amounts of money.
Let's go back. No, let's go even further back than that. This is like when Magic Johnson signed a 20-year, $20 million deal, has in $1 million a year
Right.
for years. That's where rap was when these guys are getting their deals. When Snoop's getting a deal, Pac's getting a deal, Nas, Big. When these guys are getting a deal, if you make like a few $1,000,000 in your career, that's a big, big thing at that point. Like if you can make a few $1,000,000, like and keep it and not spend it and not blow it and do something with it and turn it into something else. Like that's a big thing. They literally watched it change into something where they were hoping to make like $3 to $5 to $10 million off of, to the type of thing where they're watching the people who, quite frankly, sign them make 20, 30, 40, $50 million off of what they did. That changed everything. So 95, 96 is the change because the money starts coming in. The money's not really there 92, 93, 94. Like 95, the money started popping up. 96, the money's there. Like 96, you can hear it. Like listen to how the score is put together versus how Illmatic is put together sonically. It's like the money different in 96 with Columbia Records off this rap shit.
Well, somebody in the chat says it was 85-15. This is what I will say, man.
85-15, I thought it was.
This is what I will say about All Eyes on Me, man. All Eyes on Me, if anything, created the excitement that could show labels that, yeah, this is what the consumer does want. Now, me personally, I mean, I don't know. We could see if it boom, boom, we should be back on. Sorry about that. I had a little power outage here. Tell everybody else to, get back in the room. We're going to keep this discussion.
No. I'm in the chat right now. I'm telling everybody we're back.
Yeah. Cooper's in there keeping us alive, man. I got this Boost Mobile internet popping off over here. People say, what's going on? And stop. All right, so we was talking about double disc, though.
First, hold on. I thought we were having a double disc talk. Okay, we're back up. Cool. Look, we were having a double disc talk. We were down. First of all, we got to rate all these albums because we got to rate the Czarface. People are asking about the Fife. People are ready for us to talk about the Jack Harlow. And as far as the double albums go, people bought up Master P's The Last Don and 8 Balls Lost, which was, I believe, 3 discs.
Lost was 3 discs. How many solo albums did 8 Ball actually put out? I think maybe like 2?
2 or 3.
Was it? Okay. I mean, that was a Suave House thing. Again, I think the double disc thing became a trendy thing, but it all started with Pac, really. And I think everybody was kind of doing it after that. And the Pac thing was a blockbuster situation because he was coming out of jail. Death Row needed a win. It's Tupac. He's joined. This is like the first super team acquisition in hip hop. Is that fair to say? Like a big label machine where you got Dr. Dre, Snoop, Dogg Pound, Suge Knight. They just picked up one of the biggest rappers in the game.
Okay, so this is what I mean about how that was done kind of funky. If I'm not mistaken, Pac was signed to Priority. Was he signed to Interscope?
No, he's one of the first people to ever sign with Interscope. I remember, I think it might have been...
Let's stop for a second before you go any further. So he signed to Interscope.
Mm-hmm.
Who's distributing for Death Row?
Interscope.
So when he's signing to Death Row, what is he really doing? He's assigning more of his Interscope rights to where?
To Death Row. Honestly, I'm going to be honest. I think that...
Who's getting run by who?
Suge and Dre at the time.
No, but who's running? But where Death Row getting their money from?
Oh, yeah, Jimmy Iovine.
Who's running what?
Yeah.
So they just backdoored Pac, okay?
Oh, yeah.
They just took Pac from one door, and it's like, okay, you're not an Interscope artist anymore. Let's take him out back, walk him back around, walk him on the Death Row side of the building. It's getting distributed by Interscope. We've been an Interscope artist the whole damn time.
They did the same thing to the Game. The Game was signed to Interscope. Aftermath, they said, you know what, to put you out, we're signing you to G Unit. Right? But this is why they are marketing geniuses over there at Interscope. They know how to repackage and repurpose situations. I think that, I have no confirmation of this, but just in my opinion, I think that the negative buzz and energy that Pac was getting on his reputation based on the allegations, the shootings, pairing him up with a label like Death Row made sense from a marketing standpoint for Interscope. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I'm not saying it doesn't make perfect sense. Never before has an artist signing to a label at the time that they signed to a label made more sense for the distributor, the label, and the artist. Mm-hmm. Everybody won.
Yeah.
He needed to get out of prison. They needed a big win because all they were used to at that point was big wins. And all the people who were funneling them millions upon millions of dollars were used to was them winning. This is what I'm talking about. So you can look at All Eyes on Me as the point that everybody looked at. This is why Pac is such a trendsetter. That's where the machine changed.
Yeah,
right
no, definitely.
there. About Pac, about All Eyes on Me. You remember California Love? Remember MTV News was reporting live from the California Love music video before we had seen the video. Like we knew what the video was going to look like before the video because MTV News was there. Yeah. They were recreating the movie scene, the Mad Max. When you ever heard of a rap video recreating a movie before?
You know what else that reminds me of? That reminds me of the In the Club shoot.
In the Club don't have shit on this.
No, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is how Interscope did it.
These niggas is making movies.
I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is the way Interscope did it, and the way that they had MTV doing the behind the scenes when he was out there doing the calisthenics. They had Dre here. They had Eminem here. Interscope runs a well-oiled machine when it comes to that type of stuff. What they do is they'll sign an artist, and then they'll put that artist by the biggest artist they have and make it all work. And they sell stories too. 50 getting shot 9 times. We couldn't hear it enough on MTV News when they were about to drop "Get Rich or Die Trying."
I'm gonna tell you about something. Pac checked all the boxes. It's like, okay, so Pac is good looking, so it works for the women. Like, but also too, Pac is also like stylish, like the way he dresses, how he walks, how he acts. Well, the guys want to be him too. Like that's check. Well, he can write his ass off, and he can make a great song. It's like check. Well, he's charismatic. Check. You remember the part that I remember? Like, this is the part of me. Like, you a kid, and I know the other brothers remember this too. I remember the part. He's like, niggas want to know why I signed to Death Row, and he pulled out all the money. Yeah. He started flashing the money
and stuff.
That's the part I remember. Yeah, that's the shit that I remember. You feel what I'm saying? Because he resonated with you like that. It's Pac with the bandana on. You see him the thug life through the shirt. He's got the Death Row chain on. He's flashing the money. It's a moment. You ain't even seen the goddamn video.
Uncle Fran with the super chat says, I always hate your take on SC. I think he's talking about Sean Carter. But you guys are the best on the industry talk. Yeah, the game changed in '97 and suffered because of that. Yeah, I would love to have Kwame on and talk about these double discs because I think it's a real interesting conversation because I hear what you're saying. But I never really thought about it in those terms of like the manufacturing cost doubles. Everything doubles when you talk about a double disc. And so it's like, who does it really benefit the most? When you're talking about a label actually basically essentially spending more money on a project to get your ass out of a contract.
You need to be big.
It has to be worth it. It's like, it's doubling down. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I can basically, and maybe this is how the labels are looking at it, because we all know that a hip-hop artist's lifespan, especially in those days, 3 albums. So they're like, okay, instead of sitting here taking a chance on this album being big and the 3rd album being big, let me go ahead and just double down on one album and make it as big as this 2nd and 3rd one's going to be, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Because we could go all in and then you can make a flop. But I'm going to take my chances on this one double disc while you're hot and just go ahead and get my money now, even if it does get you out.
How Do You Want It and More Money, More Problems got made because those rappers were doing double albums. They wouldn't have made the solo disc.
Right.
How Do You Want It and More Money, More Problems wouldn't have made the solo disc.
It wouldn't have made sense.
But if we're going to go get this paper, you know what I'm saying?
So
we're going to go get this paper.
We're going to rate these albums, but since we're talking double albums and people are, putting it out there that Kendrick's got a double album dropping next Friday. Again, who does that benefit? And in this climate, is a
It had,
double
had
disc, because the double disc doesn't have the same consequences in this climate. We're not printing up stuff. You know what I'm saying?
hasn't he been having label issues?
With who? Not with Interscope, I guess.
Wherever he having label issues, has he not been having label issues?
Yeah. This seems
Right.
like
And so we're getting so it's kind of ironic that we're getting his first double disc right around the time he's having label issues.
or
Don't
when
you
he
think
said that.
that's not a coincidence? It's not a coincidence.
Well, what he said, he said that this was going to be his last Top Dog effort. So maybe he has two albums on Top Dog, and this double disc is for both of those. Because I think a lot of people are assuming when he said that, he's saying that he has one with them, and so one disc is going to be getting him out, and the next one is just going to be him being, I guess they say free, but he's going to be within the scope of Aftermath. He's not leaving there. I think that these two are the ones that are getting him out of TDE, and it sounds like Interscope is actually funding that possibility to get him out of his TDE contract so they can have him full time.
And that's how politics work.
Again, I'm just trying to talk through this and see how it makes sense for everybody involved. If Kendrick wants out of his TDE contract,
but what we need to stop doing, is stop making it seem like these artists are making these double albums because they need to express themselves creatively. Like, stop that bullshit. Stop that bullshit. You want to know how the speaker box and the Love Below exists? Because Big Boy couldn't get Andre to fucking rap on his side.
We don't have any confirmation of that.
You want to know why All Eyes on Me exists? Because Tupac was in prison. You want to know why Life After Death exists? Because Biggie was in an awful deal with Puff. You want to know why Wu-Tang Forever exists? Because Egos exist, and Method Man and Old Dirty Bastard and Raekwon and RZA were fucking legends by the time it was time to make that album. Jizza was damn near a legend too, and Ghost. Like, half the damn clan was legends. You think they just about to walk in and like start doing shit for free? Stop thinking these dudes' pride, ego, money, and all this stuff that affects every other money situation where blacks dominate or influx or participate in. It happens everywhere else. It happens here too. This is about money. This is about power. This is about leverage. This is about freedom. This is not about a guy who creatively wants to express himself for 30 songs.
I think what people got to understand too, and I agree with you on the Wu-Tang Forever thing. This is a job, and these guys are in a group with a lot of individuals in it, and they all have their own individual successful careers, and they're rappers at, that's their profession. They're MCs, and they got to get paid for their services. And at this point, like you said, Method Man is huge. Old Dirty's huge. These guys are they're able to warrant individual shows just by themselves without the Wu-Tang attached to it. So even though they're still in that group contractually, you still got to be able to match their time. I know they were talking about that Dungeon Family compilation. I remember that was being made. There were issues with the budget. And don't quote me, but essentially it was one of those things where basically certain members of the Dungeon Family were getting more than other members. You know what I'm saying? But they're all in the same collective. But, Big and Dre is just coming off of Stankonia. Whereas, EJ the Witch Doctor and Cool Breeze, they, it is what it is. And I'm sure that Wu-Tang Forever kind of had some of those things going on too, because you got to pay for Method Man's time, even if you are in that group. And I'm sure it's different for them because they're actually in a group technically as signed members of that group. But even the way that Wu-Tang was signed was unorthodox because all of them had individual deals at other labels. So that wasn't even like a traditional thing to do either.
That's where they kind of like, that's the genius about what they did. Yeah. They're the ones who taught everybody to be financially free. It's like, we're going to do this group shit, but we know there's 9 of us, so we know in order to be financially free, part of the original contract was for the artists to be able to sign solo deals. RZA's like, no, I got solo artists. These guys are stars.
Well, that was the only
RZA,
way they were going to be able to keep them as a group because,
well, no, well, you
yeah,
can't plan for that. But what I'm saying is that, well, Method Man walks in the room, he needs 100 G's. Well, you got, he's only getting 10. Y'all better work that shit out.
it is what it is. I think, and back to the whole Scottie Pippen analogy, I think that the whole notion in a situation like that, especially talking about 97, this is your chance to actually get your stock up where you're like, okay, my 100,000 day will come. Let me just get on this record and do what I got to do. And I think that brings us back to Inspect the Deck. And it brings us back to what he's doing right now. Like, I think what Deck was able to create in those years set the foundation for what he's doing right now with Czarface.
It did, but here's what I would submit to you. On Wu-Tang Forever, the way that it appears to be set up, don't you hear that it's set up either for Raekwon to release another album with Ghost or vice versa, or for Deck to drop? So when Capadonna dropped, it was like, whoa, because Deck's all over Wu-Tang Forever like he's got next.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking to myself, you guys literally, because this is already what? This is spring of 97 we're talking?
Yep.
Deck needs to drop October, like fall 97, like right now. Especially the way that he is featured on Wu-Tang Forever. I mean, because if I'm not mistaken, if we pull it up, he's on For Heaven's Sake, which is like the second record, right?
Yeah, him and Kappa. Speaking of,
Kappa's not on here like that.
yeah,
And that's what I'm feeling about Power, like really stepped in and messed that up, because like Kappa's not on Wu-Tang Forever like that. That's why it's like when Kappa's album dropped, I'm like, why they dropping Kappa? It's like we ain't even really been hearing Kappa like that. I'm like, where is that?
I think that maybe this is just me being a nerd about it. I think it just comes down to the fact that the music was coming together. Because if you listen to Uncontrolled Substance, do you feel like they had records ready for Deck to drop in 97?
I feel like Deck is the one that got hurt by the flood and he lost his records. But about that, and this is what I mean.
I hear Method Man lost records too.
This is probably, he's not Method Man.
That's fair.
He's not Method Man. Stop that. Never said that. He's not Method Man. He doesn't have that voice. He doesn't have that flow. He doesn't have that charisma. He doesn't. Only thing he has that like to go with Meth is the lyrics. That's what I'm saying. Is no, his had to be woven together in a special way. And so with him losing his stuff and Meth losing his stuff is not the same thing. And about that, they needed to rally around him. Like the way you heard Ray and Ghost talk about Deck on the Drink Champs. Oh, that's how people should have been behaving when he lost his shit. Because that's what he really needed.
When was the flood? Because I hear conflicting things. I hear the flood was in 94.
I hear the flood is like 94-ish. Yeah.
Well, if the flood was in 94, and I know it sucks to lose stuff, man, but you got to just, you can't recalibrate in 97? You have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess that's the part that I'm kind of trying to get past because Kappa was able to drop.
No, I used to think that too. So let's go to something very poignant that Ghost said about how he felt about Iron Man. He said, I felt like I got the scraps for the beats. Now, if you listen to the beats on Iron Man, first of all, those beats aren't scraps, but I get what Ghost is saying.
Yeah,
those beats aren't on a Wu-Tang shit, which is all that they're rapping over before that. Now, Ghost and Kappa can go off schedule off the Wu-Tang shit easier than Deck. And so I think part of what happened to Deck is that the Wu-Tang shit got gobbled up, specifically on Ray and GZA's album. How about this? And I'll say this too. I think because it's the GZA, and he's really like the head of this and the founder of this, and RZA feels probably a certain way, and that's his blood. I think putting Liquid Swords together sonically did something to RZA because beat for beat, he's never been the same since Liquid Swords, actually. Not beat for beat. Liquid Swords took something out of him as a producer because, like, it gets eclectic on Iron Man. Like, the Wu-Tang shit really kind of ends. The consistency of it ends with Liquid Swords. Iron Man is the eclectic Wu-Tang shit. And that's what Ghost means about the scraps. There are no shadow boxing, Killer Hills 10304, Fourth Chamber, Duel of the Iron Mike, Liquid Swords. There's none of that creepy classic Wu-Tang shit on Iron Man like that outside the Motherless Child, which is recorded when?
Yep.
95, Sunset Park soundtrack around the time Liquid Swords and the Purple Tape is being made. You get what I'm saying?
They say that RZA was transitioning out of the old style, after the flood, and that would make sense. And we've seen people transition out of their old style. I mean, I think most notably, Pharrell is one of the ones that really sticks out to me, and we're gonna talk about him in a couple of minutes when we talk about this Jack Harlow. Yeah. But RZA, that's a lot of responsibility.
He had a lot of responsibility.
All of those guys' records, and like you said, by the time it gets to the fourth or fifth or sixth effort, that person is being left with whatever's left over.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Deck
can't rhyme over, like, if you listen to the beats that are on like Iron Man, it's like Deck can't rap over half of those beats like and be Deck.
Well, that makes it even more difficult.
He can't rap over Daytona 500. He can't rap over Iron Maiden. I love Iron Maiden.
I can hear him over Daytona 500.
No, I can't see Deck on Daytona 500. That's not for Deck. Like, Iron Maiden's not for Deck. Isn't he on Assassination Day?
Mm-hmm.
I could see him on Fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Deck on Fish or something like that. But most of the beats, Cam A maybe, but most of those beats on there, that's not, after the smoke is clear, that's not for Deck, really.
I think you said something too with the whole charisma side of it. You were talking about Method Man in relation to Deck, but when you think about the charisma that somebody like a Method Man, Dirty, Ray, Ghost, and Kappa have, they're gonna go out in front of you. Like you said, Jizza's a whole different animal. Whatever. He doesn't need to have all of those things because lyrically, he's just something else, and then the chemistry that him and RZA have is just, they have a bond. They've been together longer than everybody. But I think that's why Kappa got pushed ahead of Deck, because he could do a lot of things just charismatically that Deck couldn't do.
And the climate had changed.
Yeah, I think Wu Wear was a big one for him too when he jumped on that.
Right, now here's what I will tell you, is that let's say the Jizz is the one that got bumped up. Well, he delivered, because I keep telling people, Liquid Swords, like, lyrically speaking, is album-wise. If we're talking bar for bar on an album, oh no, that's like Paid in Full, like Follow the Leader, like Illmatic, it was written level lyricism. You understand that, right?
I do. Like, I don't think Eminem fans understand that, but I do.
Just a high level of lyricism going on Liquid Swords. It is some of the highest lyricism ever.
With all of that being said, though,
if he got bumped up, he delivered.
With all that being said, I want to bring this back around. I think Deck really deserves what's going on right now, and I'm happy that he has found this collective and is like rapping in rare form. What are we giving this album?
Get out of my head? What are we giving this album? Right.
The production is very strong.
4.25.
That's where I was going. 4.25. I actually just wrote it right down right here on this paper. I wrote it down. Yeah.
I wrote it down while you were gone, actually, because I figured, because when somebody asked it, I was like, let me go ahead and jump out of here and write this down.
Yeah, I put 4.25.
Me too. We're agreed. Mm-hmm.
I'm still sticking with the 5 for Black Star, so yeah, this makes sense. And I'm glad we got a barometer for 2022 with Black Star.
So can I ask you something? So here's where we really need the barometer right quick before we go to Meth. What are we going to do? Listen to these albums. We got Saba, Currency, Alchemist, Conway, Benny, Vince, KRS, Crit, Wiz, Dizza, and now the Czarface. Those are all 4.25s. That's what I mean about this shit being 96-ish.
Yeah. We need to have a meeting offline and just go over all the ratings and kind of fill in a lot of the blanks. Shout out to Ray Rims with the super chat. He says Liquid Swords is my top 5 hip hop albums. Yeah.
Yeah, lyrically speaking,
He
It's
said it's in
very,
my
very.
top 5 rap albums. I'm not
Hold
mad at
on.
that.
Lyrically speaking, Liquid Swords is supreme clientele for lyricists. Right, right.
You know
What
what?
I
We
was
actually might do a Monday. Well, we'll give y'all details on that.
No, no, no.
We'll
Get
be
out of
there.
my head, Mike. You want to know what needs to happen? What we were talking about behind the scenes. Listen to this. This is gonna be talking in code to you. We're gonna let somebody offer the rebuttal to the rating. Whoever gives the best rebuttal to the rating, we pull them up on the third show, and we let everybody else go after they go. But that's the thing. Somebody got to come up with the best rebuttal for the rating, and that's who we go and pull up on Monday, and we let everybody else come and help that person, and that's how we rate the albums that we disagree with our clientele on. You get it?
Yeah.
Like we pick one person who has the best rebuttal, and we let the fans get behind that person and rebuttal with us about why it should be that way, and that's where we're gonna parse through some of this stuff because some people don't feel like the Black Star is a 5, and I feel you. I just feel like y'all keep waiting for most to rap like it's 1999, and that was just fucking 23 years ago.
Well, I want to do it on a platform where we can actually play the music too. I think that's going to be more conducive, and we're looking into Patreon to be able to do that
Yeah.
because I'm hearing that we could play the music on Patreon. I wish we could do
No,
it here, but YouTube would shut us down if we did that. So
we can get into some things.
yeah,
We can get
people are saying Supreme Clientele top 5. I'm with that too. Incredible music. All right, you want to go to this Method Man?
Liquid Swords and Supreme Clientele. I think you and me are still arguing about this. Those albums are right next to each other. Like if I
Yeah,
were to make a list, I might go Liquid Swords, Supreme Clientele, and vice versa. Go
I'm
ahead.
going with Supreme, but yeah.
I'm going with Liquid, but yeah, I can't knock you. I told you if you take the skits out of Supreme Clientele, it's just as like brilliant and fast and magnifying as Liquid Swords is, and Ghost is more entertaining.
Ghost is in the zone on that album.
So is the Jizza. And
Oh
here's
yeah.
the thing. Well, here's the thing about Supreme Clientele. Well, Ghost is in his own on Supreme Clientele. Well, Jizza's in his own on Liquid Swords, but everybody else is in his own on Liquid Swords too. Very purple tape-ish.
Gray
Very.
88 says live stream the album and review them on Patreon. Brian says get on Patreon. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
I'm not. Whoever said I'm selling Deck Short in the chat, I'm not selling Deck Short. Deck's the old school style MC. You want to know what Deck? You know who Deck really would do well with beat wise? Because of how he delivers, he would be very good over the same beats Rakim is good over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
some of the stuff on the 18th leather, like the Saga Begins and New York, and it's been a long time. That's Deck's pocket.